Welcome to the broadcast. This is Live Free or Die Barred, Episode 5. It's just a tribute. I'm your host, Jinx. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome to those of you who are coming back from previous episodes to see more of our custom, made from scratch Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign. If you want to check it out on Obsidian Portal, here is our web address. Oh, and thank you for the mod to put a link in there too. This is livefreeordiebarred.obsidianportal.com. You can come look and see our campaign as we work on it, play along at home, make suggestions in the comments there, and hopefully, eventually, by the time we're finished with it, you can use it for your own games. You can run it as an adventure path of your own. Okay, let's get started. So that's what the stream is about. Obsidian Portal, if you've never used it before, is a campaign management website. We're using it to take notes and keep notes. And we're going to explore all the little bits and pieces, things that you can do with it. Spoiler warning, if you intend to play this game in the future, you will see spoilers. We're going to put everything in the public sphere so that you can access it as GMs and run your own stuff, get inspiration, see what's going on. Let's do a quick review of what we've done so far. This is episode 5. Episodes 1 through 4, we talked about concepts and themes. We talked about player types. We did some basic mapping. We're going to do lots more mapping later on. And we talked about our meta plot, our overarching plot for our campaign, which, if you don't know already, is basically we're in a world. Our campaign world is fantasy, high fantasy, pretty decent magic. All the magic is based on music and dance and things like that. So we're doing lots and lots of musical themes. And we need your help in the chat. If you're watching this after the live stream, in the comment section of the YouTube video. Basically, we need musical puns, the names of artists that we can turn into cool character names, monsters, things like that, for our game. So feel free to participate in the chat and play along, and we'll try and get some of your stuff in there. Some sad news this week. A couple of very famous rock stars have passed away. You may have read about this already. Eddie Money, who's famous for 2 Tickets to Paradise, Take Me Home Tonight, Baby Hold On to Me, and Rick Ocasek, who was the lead singer for The Cars, one of my favorite bands, have both died recently, and I feel that it would be appropriate at Live Free or Die Barred to pay tribute to them as best we can with some entries into our world so that their spirit can live on in our game. So let's start with Eddie Money. If you don't know much about him, rock star, vocalist, singer, songwriter, pretty cool hair. Not quite as cool as Rick, but still pretty good. We're going to add him into our game in a couple of different ways. The first one is his name is Money, so I feel that it would be justified to name some money after him. So let's go to our wiki. We're going to go down to the Kingdom of Calliope. That's where our starter area is in our wiki here, and we're going to take some notes. So some of the stuff that you want to add as a GM for different areas of your world is little tidbits of knowledge. Like, let's say they call their coins, they have slang terms for their coins here. We're going to use the standard 5th edition layout of coinage, where you have gold pieces and silver pieces and things like that. You can read about that in your player's handbook if you're new to the game. Basically, a gold piece is equivalent to, let's say, $1. Silver piece is a dime. Copper piece is a penny, and so on and so forth. So we're going to add some money slang to our wiki here in the Kingdom of Calliope. We're going to make a new entry, I think, so we're going to go to the little edit button and come on down here. Here's what our page looks like so far. We've got cities, towns, and villages. We need to add some sort of a cultural component where we can talk about the things that go on, the culture of this particular kingdom. So let's go down and add a new entry, and we'll just call it culture. So you do double brackets on both sides to create a new wiki link. It will look like this when you're finished. We can rearrange that later if we need to. We're going to go down to the bottom and hit save, and we've made a new entry. Right now there's nothing in the entry, so it's got this little purplish color. We're going to click on it to go to that wiki page. Here's the new wiki page. Its name is Culture. You can do tags with it. We don't have a lot of tags going on right now, so we'll go back and add tags later on. And we're going to add coinage. And we're going to describe a couple of, let's call it currency, actually, because some of it might end up not being coins. Okay, so for currency, we're going to have some slang terms. One of the slang terms for, like in British coinage, you have slang terms for some of your coins. Or Canadian coins, I think in the modern age, you have slang terms for some of those. Same general idea here. We're going to add a touch of culture by giving our currency slang terms. So eddies, we're going to call one of our coins eddies for tribute to Eddie money. So we have gold pieces, silver pieces, copper pieces. You can add in some other ones if you want to do some homebrew stuff. Right now I think eddies are going to be, they start with an E, so we could use electrum pieces if we wanted to do a little old school. Our electrum pieces. Electrum was an alloy of gold and silver. I think you had them back in 2nd edition D&D. I don't know if they've used them recently or not, but we're going to throw them in here. So we have eddies or electrum pieces. How's it going, Jay Raven? Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. So we need some other singers and musicians and whatnot that have money kind of names that we can throw in here too. Let's say that this particular region that we're in, they're into the rock music kind of stuff. So we can go a little bit country too, I suppose. Johnny Cash is a good money name. So let's make one of the slang terms for our money is Johnny's. And he's the man in black, so we don't really have a coin that turns black unless we make a new coin. And one of the coins out of history that you end up with are coins made out of iron, hammered from iron. So I think we should make an iron coin. There are iron coins that are guitar pick shaped and patina black. I think that's how you spell patina. No, I'm wrong. Patina. So when iron gets used up and rusty, the stones could be copper pieces. That's a good idea. Let's put them in here. Stones are copper pieces. So we've got a couple of colloquial names. You could get really esoteric if you wanted to, and come up with lots of different names for bands or musicians with gold, silver in their name. We'll come back to that as we think of them, but we've got a spot for it now. Let me put a period at the end of here, so it's all the same. All right, and later on maybe we can make some graphics to go with some of these coins. so that people know what we're talking about. We can do cool shapes and things like that. All right, we're going to create. Down at the bottom, this creates our wiki page. And here's our little note section. We're using OP to keep our notes right now. We'll clean it up as we go and make it look pretty and nice for easy to readness later on. But right now, we're still very much in the early stages of making our campaign. And just getting the notes down onto digital paper, in this case, is the key. All right, so there's a good start for our tribute to Eddie Money. We're also going to do one of his songs as part of our tribute, and we've already got our first adventure layout started in the starter town, Act 1, Chapter 1, Adventure 1, and I think that it would be appropriate to subtitle this one instead of getting the band together, which we are definitely doing. I think we're going to call it 2 Tickets to Paradise. If you weren't here for one of our previous streams, we named our starter town Paradise City. There we go. So 2 Tickets to Paradise. Let's use that concept, 2 Tickets to Paradise, as part of our plot line for our Adventure 1. We'll go back and write some more about this later, but let's just get this down on our notes for now. And we're going to make some bullet points here. The little asterisk gives you the bullet points. And we're going to do 2 tickets are available for the Paradise. Let's do a like a ball, like a masquerade ball, like a Paradise ball. As with many of my ideas, I don't really have a way to incorporate that yet. That sounds like it would be a cool hook. The players somehow get a hold of 2 tickets for this Paradise ball. What's going to be in the ball? We'll have to make that up as we go. What's going to be, how do they get the tickets? If they only have 2 and there's more characters than 2, how do they get the rest of their team in there? All good questions, ones that they will likely have to find out during the course of the adventure. So that will help you write your adventure. Just start with one little hook and then come up with the details around it as you go. All right, there's our tribute to Eddie Money for now. If you think of any other good things, then yep, masked singer style. Ooh, that'd be good. Yeah, a masquerade ball, masked singers. We could throw some stuff in there, definitely. One of the things we want to do now is talk about Rick Ocasek of the Cars. If you're not familiar with the Cars, they were late 70s, early 80s. Cool rock stars. You probably heard a bunch of their songs if you don't recognize them right off the bat. We'll go over that in a minute. We're going to turn them into some characters, non-player characters to be specific, that are going to be in this town. I'm thinking the Cars, obviously there's no cars in our fantasy game, but we could rename them the Carts, because I think that would be amusing. The Carts. And they're going to be a band. So we're giving them a tag. Tags make it easy to search for things. And if you're just looking at the names of stuff on OP, you can quickly read the tags and kind of get a general idea what you're talking about. So a quick description of the Carts. We're gonna base them on their real life counterpart, the Cars, and we're gonna make them cool rockers who like to wear sunglasses. I think sunglasses would be appropriate in our game about musicians. So those have been invented at this time. We're not going to give them a character sheet right now because it's a group. So let's give them, okay, so for stats, this is where you put your crunch. your armor class, weapons, things like that in your description area. We're going to use this area to list some of the names of the members of the carts, and we're going to base them off the real world names. If you don't know, it's Rick Ocasek, Benjamin Orr, Elliot Easton, Greg Hawks, David Robinson. I think they also had a sax player at one point, but not for all their songs. So we're gonna we'll just give them some singular names as you do in the fantasy tradition. So we'll call lead singer is Ocasek. I think he also played rhythm guitar. I don't remember exactly. Who else? I think Easton was the lead guitar. So we'll make him lead lute. Easton. If any of you guys in the chat know your Cars history better than me, we can go back and fix this. Benjamin Orr might have been keyboards. So what do we have? Mandolin or dulcimer. Those are hammered, right? Or harpsichord, something like that. Harpsichord sounds cool. We'll do harpsichord. Harpsichord is Orr. I don't remember what Hawks and Robinson played, but we'll put them down here too. We'll add that later in after I go do some wiki research. Hawks. Son, and we'll call him David, son of Robin. Oh, there you go. Thanks. Dan plays VR. Singer, rhythm guitarist, and songwriter Rick Ocasek, bassist and singer Benjamin Orr. Okay, so he's the bassist. So we'll make him bass lute. Lead guitarist Easton, keyboardist Greg Hawks. Okay, so he'll be on the harpsichord. Harpsichord, Hawks, and drummer David Robinson. Drummer David, son of Robin. Okay, so there's our band. These guys are going to be a rival band to the group of PCs that have also come into town to make their musical fortunes or other entertainment opportunities. So let's give these guys a little bit of backstory, some information to go with them. So let's see, we know that they're in town. Maybe they're also trying to get into this masquerade ball. They can play for the nobles and make some money. They are fairly well known. So let's see. Fairly well known musicians. So there's a little bit of a challenge for our PCs who will be relative unknowns when they arrive into town to become master bards. Well, we're starting them at level 1, so they've got a ways to go. Fairly well known musicians who are in Paradise City seeking their fortune. Okay, let's do since we're here and we're doing tribute. 2 of the Cars members have passed away, by the way. Ocasek died recently. Benjamin Orr has died previously. So I think it would be all right if we borrowed some of their songs and made some parody songs about them. I think they might get a kick out of that. So if you're not familiar with car songs, you can go look these up later. Obviously, for copyright reasons, I'm not allowed to play the songs actually on the stream, but you can certainly play them at home. We can parody them, however. Parody laws are very clear. So we're going to do Longbow, It's Magic. Longbow, It's Magic. This is going to be their set list, by the way. So maybe the players during the course of investigating some of their rivals will find the set lists at some point. You might drink this potion. You might drink this potion. We can come up with more lyrics later on. One of my favorites, my bard friend's girlfriend. I think it's girl. My bard friend's girlfriend. Yeah. We can do, here's a good one. I had fun coming up with these. Who will revive your gnome tonight? They have one song, the actual car said, Since You're Gone, but we're doing Since Dragon. Because that's funny to me. I know a night she drums. I know a night. I got two more, and then if anybody else comes up with more, feel free. They have quite the catalog of songs to choose from. Let's see. Get the 10-foot pole to the tune of Let the Good Times Roll. Get the 10-foot pole. Can't type and sing at the same time, sorry. And last one I came up with was You're All I've Got to Smite. It's true. To smite. All right, so if I were an excellent dungeon master, I would come up with at least a handful of lyrics for these songs so that when the party encounters this rival band, perhaps during one of their performances, they would hear some of the funny lyrics. Okay, so we've got our parody song set list going as our tribute to the cars. Which brings me to another idea that I think would be interesting. Our intention with this campaign is that we're going to have a bunch of bards or people who support bard classes. Oh yeah, go down to the bottom and hit create. That will help. And that will make our character the Carts. There's a band. And then they appear in our NPC section. Right here. We'll come up with a cool image for them later on. So I'm thinking in the same vein of us making up pun song titles that our players who, in theory, will be making either a bard troupe or a traveling entertainment type of group for their party. And that's the reason that we're getting them together and having them adventure around our world. They're going to have to come up with their own pun names or titles of their shows that they do, maybe their tour, something like that. So I think we should reward them for that fact by giving them bonus experience points. So let's do some house rules. Let's go back to the wiki. We want these to be somewhere where they can find them very easily, so we're going to put them right up at the top and give them double brackets house rules. So when you're making house rules for your game, you're going beyond the scope of the original rule book that you're using, and you're adding things. So you want to be a little careful about what you add. You want to make it sort of fair and balanced, fit the theme. And so we're going to start keeping some notes on some of the house rules that we want to incorporate. So this is essentially we want to give out XP or other bonuses. If you think of another bonus that would be more appropriate for them coming up with funny names for their own songs and acts. So let's describe it as a section for bonus XP. I think we'll make this, oops, get rid of that, bonus XP. And then come down here and we'll do, let's see, our first idea is funny song titles. And then, so we need to figure out how much XP we're going to give out for funny song titles. So let's take a look at our book. This is the Player's Handbook. If you haven't seen it before, this is the 5th edition D&D. So we're going to flip through here and find our section on how much XP you need to level up. If you haven't played before, if you're brand new to the game, experience points, you earn them as you go. You gain levels by getting enough experience points, and then your character in the game as a player gets more special powers and spells and unlocks cool new things. More hit points so you can survive longer, fight bigger, nastier creatures. Okay, so for character advancement, in this version, you start off with 0 experience points, and to get to level 2 from level 1, you need 300 experience points. So we want to give out significantly less than that because, yes, we can't quite start over Niflheim Alpha, sorry, but feel free to go back and watch the VOD after the fact and see what you missed. Okay, so 300 XP is not a lot, so we want to give out a small amount of XP in case somebody decides to write, let's say, 10 songs. We don't want them to level up from just 10 songs. We want them to work a little harder than that. So we're going to give out, at least at the beginning, I think 5 XP as a little bonus for a funny song title. Probably won't make too much of a difference. We can adjust that later on if we think that's not quite enough. But let's see what that's going to look like with our preview button. Oh, yeah, I need to adjust my, let's do it this way. I just want this one to be H2. Let's make this guy H6. Yep, didn't quite get it. Hang on. Let's just take that off there. We'll just do this bold for now. I'm not a textile master like some of the folks are still learning. And create page. We'll come back and fix it later. There you go. Okay, so our first house rule that we've written, bonus XP. We got funny song titles XP. Okay. So that's a good house rule. Other house rules that you could try later on, you can give bonus experience or items or whatever you want to give out for anything creative. If they come up with backstories that you want them to, you can give them a certain amount per, chapter, backstory, page, or whatever you want to do. Lots of options there. But we're going to want to keep this house rules section in mind for when we come up with something that goes beyond the scope of normal Dungeons and Dragons. We'll use that too. Oh, while we're here, at our bestiary, we had our bunch of ideas that we had last week for Def Leopards, Rock Beetles, Skeletons of Society, Ungrateful Dead, Werewolves of London, Yardbirds, and the Zombies. I thought of another one that we could add based on a conversation earlier this week. Let's get it alphabetized. And we'll do a Kid Rock, R-O-C. If you're not well versed in your monster manual. A rock is basically a giant eagle-like creature that is big enough to snatch horses off of the plain and eat them. So we'll have the Kid Rock. We'll have a small version of that. Okay. You could also do Kid Rock like a baby stone giant if you wanted to. All right. Got our XP awards for song puns. So keep in mind if you have any other ideas for such things as house rules, things that you think would be appropriate to give to a player in one of these games, feel free to chime in the chat. All right, let's talk about some adventure writing. First thing, in episode 2 we talked about was the different player archetypes. We've got them here. I've edited a couple of pictures as I found some ones that seem to fit from last time. We have these 6 are the ones we came up with. There's a few more out there that I'm sure you could add into this. We've talked about a few of them already, but these are the ones that we want to concentrate on. So basically, when you're writing your adventures, you're going to you want to think about what these particular people will want from your adventure, what they will do when they get presented with the stuff that you have, and how they will react based on their archetype. Of course, you can never predict it completely, but this will give you a little bit of an advantage in terms of thinking ahead and being ready in case you do need to improvise, which you will. You'll still have a pretty good idea of where to start. So let's go over these one more time if you missed episode 2. We have Alice the actor, who is talkative and enjoys role-playing. Alice is the type of player who will want to do more chatting with NPCs and describing their actions and things like that. They're all about the role-playing side of the role-playing game. They care a little bit less about the numbers and the crunch and more about the acting part of it. You have Eddie the escapist. His 9-to-5 job is really boring. Ooh, that's a good one. +1 to hit if you sing rhyme your action. Oh, I like that. Small advantage for singing rhyming. Let's throw that in right now while we're thinking about it. Or house rules. So for a quick edit, you just go right back to where you were. Hit the little pencil and paper icon to go into edit. And we'll go down here. We'll make this, let's see, modifiers. And we'll do +1 to your attack roll if you sing or rhyme your action description. Okay. It's a pretty significant bonus, but it will get them in the mood thinking about how to describe their actions. We'll probably make a caveat that they can't reuse things. It has to be original. Let's go back to our characters. Eddie the escapist is our second player archetype. He's got a boring job. He's at your game, so he can escape from his reality. He'll be very interested in portraying his character also, as long as it's different from his real life. Anything mundane that your characters are doing, he will probably not be as thrilled about. He's there for the excitement and the adventure and doing all the stuff that he wouldn't be able to do in reality. He is probably going to be a little bit of a daredevil. He's going to look for challenges and the fun that you would get out of that side of things. So we could keep him in mind too. Ezra the explorer. This person is focused on, they want to investigate your world, they want to find out information, they like the lore and the story. That's what they're going for. So you're going to want to put plenty of that in there for this particular type of player to investigate. They're going to like mysteries. They're going to like puzzles. If you have like collectible things in your game, they're going to want to collect them. They're going to gravitate towards that sort of thing. They're going to want to uncover all the stuff that you have hidden. So you want to make sure you give them the opportunity to do that. Don't just hand them stuff freely. Let them dig a little bit. That's what they're going to love. You have Norbert the Noob, who you definitely should keep in mind. This is a person who maybe has never played role-playing games before. Maybe they've never played this edition before. Maybe they're new to the group. They don't know anybody yet. They're going to have confidence issues most likely, and it's your job to teach them the game, show them what you expect of them, how you want them to play, and then sort of boost them up and build them up. So there's some training there. Once they get into it, then they'll probably turn into one of the other types of player archetypes. You have Polly the Power Gamer. This might be your rules lawyer or your person who likes building characters and feeling super strong and smashing things and outwitting opponents and coming up with cool combinations of spells. Power Gamer is not necessarily a detriment to your game. It can be if you're not ready for them, but if you expect them and you put things in for them to do and to have fun with and let them show off a little bit, you're going to be fine. You're welcome. Yeah, you were the noob once, but I think it's been a while. Feel less. Okay. Also, Wanda the World Builder is our last archetype we want to think about. This is the person who likes to create their own stuff. They may be a GM in another game. They may be a writer, an artist. They like architecture. They want to make stuff, and they will likely want to make stuff for your game. And you should think about letting them do that, because that's a great benefit to you. It can add a lot of elements to your world. You could basically just need to give them some direction and let them go, and approve things or disapprove depending on how strong you want them to make things, stuff like that. So these are 6 archetypes that we want to keep in mind when we're writing adventures, which we're going to start doing right now. All right. So we're keeping our adventures in our adventure log. Normally on Obsidian Portal, you would use your adventure log as to write reports of what happened during the adventure. We're using it to store our actual adventures. One thing I would recommend if you've never done it before is to look at someone else's adventures if you have a chance and see how they've written them. You can get a lot of cool ideas that way. That's kind of what the stream's about. Check out other people's stuff. I actually have an example here. One of my friends loaned me this book recently. It's Strongholds and Followers. It's a Matt Colville book that came out pretty recently, and he's loaned it to me. We're going to be using it later on when we're building a particular stronghold in this game. But in the middle of this book, they have, I can find the page where it starts. They have a pretty decent adventure going on. Yeah, here it is. It's called The Siege of Castle Rend, and it's sort of showing off the special rules in this particular book. But it's got a good layout. I won't hold it up to the camera because you won't be able to read it, but I'll give you an idea of generally how this adventure is written as an example. But if you can get your hands on any kind of a pre-written adventure and see how they do it, you'll get an idea of what we're going for. You need all of your information laid out so it's easy to access and navigate, because when you're running the game, half of your brain is going to be on managing players and descriptions, and the other half's going to be on what's next in your notes. So it needs to be easy to navigate. Is the first point. Basically, Colville starts out with his adventure summary, which goes over the overview of what's going on. He describes he splits his adventure up into 4 sections and describes each section in brief. And then he has a conclusion. After that, he goes on to list his major NPCs and how to roleplay them. And then he gets into the nitty-gritty of the details of his 4 sections and conclusion. Inside of his adventure, he has things like he has an interesting quote about the world for the GM to read to sort of get them in the mood. He has sort of an overview of what the players will find when they go to different areas. He has little special rules, like in his Market Square section on page 105, he has a special rule. Any item in the core rulebooks worth less than 10 gold pieces can be purchased from the traders at the Gravesford Market. Little stuff like that you're going to want to include. Basically what the players can do while they're there. He has a cool little map for Gravesford. I'll see if I can show you. I don't know if this will autofocus exactly, but it will give you an idea. You have to pick up the book if you want to see more. It's got little maps. He's got little tidbits about the history of the world tucked into the sidebars. Descriptions of buildings, people. Every so often he'll throw in a little thing about like what a person might say to you when you're in an area, like they may hear this or something like that. Just tucked in there. So it's a pretty good layout. And then it goes on to eventually when they get into combat, it lays out what that's going to be. It has encounters for when they're traveling and so on and so forth. But basically, thanks for the book, by the way, for letting me borrow it. Get some use. So you're going to want to look at whatever adventures you can get a hold of before you start writing your own. And get an idea of how you want to do your own layout. I have a particular style that I like when I'm doing it on notebook paper. What we're going to use for our Obsidian Portal adventure is keep it fairly small and compact and nice and tight. And we're going to use lots of linking so that we can get to other pages that we need to get to quickly and pop them open in other windows. Okay, so Act 1, Chapter 1, Adventure 1. We are starting in the town of Paradise City. And generally speaking, the layout that I'm keen on, this is sort of a basic outline of what we want it to look like. So we're going to have we're going to have an overview. We're going to have, we're going to do it in, I think, maybe 3 sections. And then we'll subdivide those sections. So what I've got so far after our overview is we're going to do song titles as our sections. So we're going to have section 1, we could do a numbered list actually, is Take Me Down to Paradise City. The next section is going to be We Built This City. The third section is going to be White Wedding. And then we're going to have a conclusion. All right, let's see what this looks like so far. All right. So as you saw in the formatting, it's an asterisk gives you a bullet point, and a number sign with a space gives you a numbered list. I think you can nest these two, if I'm not mistaken, to go in and do some other things like that. So we need to give some information about what you're going to get in these different sections, so that when you're searching through the adventure, you can easily find what you need quickly, because you're going to be talking at the same time that you're thinking about this stuff. Yes, you can use multiple number signs to nest things, which I'll show you in a second. If I can get it to work right, we'll find out. When in doubt, just play with it. It'll eventually work how you want it to. Okay, Take Me Down to Paradise City is going to be the characters arrive and see the sights. So section 1 of our intro adventure is pretty important. You're setting the tone for everything from this point on. So whatever you show them right away, you're teaching them how you want your game to go. And you have to explain the entirety of the world that their characters live in, which is going to be tricky because you have a limited amount of time to do that. So generally the idea is that when you make an Obsidian portal page, you try and get your characters to come look at it so that they have an idea what world they're starting in. And you can bribe them to do that if necessary. All right, so our section 1, though, when you sit down to play, this is going to be the part where they arrive at the city. You're going to talk about what's going on currently at the city, what they see, the details that they're going to need for the rest of the game session, as well as the rest of the month, or however long that you're here. We're using Paradise City as our sort of starting point. It's going to be our headquarters for our low-level game. Levels probably 1 through 3 or 1 through 5 are going to be based here. So we want to sort of set it up as a place to do some adventures for low levels. Okay, so that's our number 1. Let's Take Me Down to Paradise City. We built this city. We discussed this last time. It was an idea. I think Kalak may have come up with it. We have big walls. Let me show you the map, actually. Let me switch over to find my paint. There you go. This is in paint.net. Here's the map that we have. We generated this on a website that makes random maps, and we just used the first one that we got. So this is our little town on the seaside. We have a few things filled out, like some of the crops that they grow outside of the town. So when we're describing them entering the city, we're going to describe them passing by these crops. They're going to come in through a main gate. We'll have to figure out what some of these outbuildings are outside of this main gate, what they see as they come through the main streets into the city center, and then this is going to be like our market square, and then we describe from there what's going on in town. We don't want to overload them with information, but we want to give them plenty so that they know what's up and they can start making decisions, because your players, unless they're completely new at playing role-playing games, the only thing they have to do in the game is to make decisions for their characters. So you want to give them the opportunity to make decisions pretty much as soon as possible. All right, let me make that go away. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's go back to our overview here, our outline. So we built the city. As you saw in the map picture, there are big walls around a relatively small town. So we came up with the idea, I think it was last time, about how the big walls are, maybe 2 times ago, the big walls are ancient walls that have just been co-opted by the town to protect them from maybe some monsters or raiders or something that live nearby, which we haven't determined yet. But I think that the players should discover pretty early on in their adventure, they discover Discovery of buried ruins under the ancient walls. We'll talk about how they make this discovery in a little bit. We're just sort of getting our general ideas right now. Okay, so they do something with this stuff under the walls. They find some secret right away, which will help appeal to, if you remember our explorer archetype, that'll be good for the explorer. The White Wedding is our number 3, based on a Billy Idol song, for those of you who don't know. And I'm thinking for this one, we want to touch on that masquerade ball idea, and I think that the characters are going to meet an NPC here. Maybe they met her before this, but something's going on. Maybe she's getting married or getting engaged or something like that, and maybe doesn't want to. So for our notes right now, we'll have an unwilling bride-to-be needs the band's help. So you don't have to have a full idea. Just get some thoughts down, and then we'll fill in the details later. But that sounds like a neat twist. They go from discovering ruins to a role-playing opportunity, which will help with the other character archetypes that we talked about, the actor. And then we need, at some point, a conclusion after that. I think we can add one more in here, maybe, before our conclusion. After the White Wedding section, let's do another number. That's the nice thing about the textile here, is you don't have to go back in and like renumber things. It's going to auto number things for you. So after White Wedding, I think we need a ballroom blitz, which is another song title. Really good song. You should go look it up. Ballroom Blitz, I think, is going to be our climax of this first adventure, and it's going to be confrontation at the masquerade ball. And then our conclusion will just be the sort of the aftermath of what happens after they make their decisions, if they win, if they lose, if there's some sort of partial success, partial failure. We'll talk about that when we write our conclusion. Okay. So we've got, let's see if we can do one of those nested lists. I haven't done one of these before, so this is new to me. I'm guessing you do. There's double number signs, but let's find out. Characters rather than see the sites. What do we need them to see first? We're going to have them. Let's see. We need to show them what we talked about last week with the religious zealots who are magically branding magic users who are not part of their faith. Okay, so let's try this one. Let's have it as they arrive into town. There's one of these branding events taking place. Okay. So we'll call it criminals are, if I can spell, criminals are being branded by the clergy. All right, let's see if I've done it correctly. Yes, that's how you do it. Okay. So that's our nested list. And then whatever you put after that will be subdivided thusly. Okay. Let's save. Here's what we've got so far. So we've got our loose notes up here, which are going to turn into our part of our overview for the GM. We've got the outline going on here. The order of operations being the player characters get to the city. They see what's going on, get an idea of what's going on in this town. We give them whatever their hook is, perhaps here. We get them to a point where they can discover the buried ruins under the ancient walls and what they find there. That's going to take up a chunk of their first game. Eventually, they will get into the role-playing section where we give them access to this bride-to-be, needs the band's help, and then we eventually have our final confrontation at the masquerade ball. So we have a general idea of the scope of where this is going, and then whatever our conclusion is after that. Whatever happens there. Okay, so let's go back and check our character list. Let's see who we have so far to work with. Aside from our players, we have Guarbarians, which we're not using quite yet. They're just going to be a threat on the edges of society. We have our several queens. We have the Dancing Queen and the Killer Queen and her twisted sister. These are the political powers of the time. We're still quite a ways away from meeting them. We have the Loot Fox hero, who is our lost bard hero, who has vanished. So we're not using any of them. So we're concentrating on these three right here. We have Mayor Petty Tom, we have Rim Barry Buck, and we have the Carts. So Mayor Petty Tom is probably, what do we know about him so far? What have we already written? We know he is a sleepy-eyed, laid-back singer. So we're going to use him. We already have his character made, so let's go back to our first adventure and find a spot for him. So I want, in my outline and overview, I want to list some of the NPCs that our players are going to meet so that I can prepare myself when I'm looking at our outline, which I should write outline here. I want to prepare myself as a GM. When I'm glancing at this briefly in the middle of the game, right before the game, I want to know what NPCs I'm gonna have to role play. So in this section where criminals are being branded by the clergy, that's a public event. You're going to have a lot of your public figures are going to be here, and I think maybe the mayor will say a few words. So we're going to include a link for him. I think we could just put it right after this. So we want to do a character link. If you go over here on the right hand side, do a character link. You can scroll down if you want to, or you can filter by name or tag. I see that he's right here, so we're just going to use that. We're going to insert Mayor Petty Tom. If you didn't see before, you have two sides of your entry here. You have the text that you want to appear, which is pre-highlighted for you. You can type in whatever you want, and that's what will appear. And then you have the slug. This is the address, basically, of your character page or your wiki entry or whatever else that you're using. Will be on the left-hand side. That one, don't change that one. Just change this one over here, and you'll be good. Okay, so we know the mayor is going to be at this branding ceremony. Probably some of our bad guys are going to be there too, but we haven't defined who they are yet, so let's leave them out for now. Let's save this one, and then go back and see what other characters we want to use. So we've got, one thing that would be useful is if we gave them tags for where they are in the story. So let's add some tags to these guys. Okay, so he's in Adventure 1. We know he's in Paradise City, so let's go ahead and put Paradise City Hit the tab to add it, and that gives him a tag. There's his tag. So he's a little easier to search for now. Because when you have a whole bunch of NPCs, searching becomes fairly critical. Okay, so we know he's in Paradise City. We know Rim Berrybuck. What do we know about him so far? He's a bald, crazy man who rants about the end of the world as we know it. We're going to give him a tag also. Once you've created a tag, it'll appear on your little drop-down list here. And you just start typing, and it'll show up. You just click it. And there it is. And we go down to the bottom and save. And now he's saved. And we also want to add a tag for the carts. We're going to make their appearance in our Adventure 1. They're already a band. We're going to add Paradise City. They may be in other areas too, but for now they're here. Okay, so let's go back to our first adventure in the adventure log. Edit. And go down here and add some more people. I think, let's see, our crazy guy, he's going to show up right away. I think we want him out on the street preaching the minute that they show up. So we're going to put him in this first section here. So take me down to Paradise City. Going to add our character link. And now we can start searching by... There you go. Here's our Paradise City people. You don't even have to type the whole thing. You just type it. So we're going to add our Rim Berrybuck, who's based on the lead singer from REM. And there he is. So Rim Berrybuck appears. And then where are the carts going to show up? We probably will have them show up somewhere beforehand, but we definitely know that they're going to be towards the end. They will probably be at the Masquerade Ball. So we're going to have them in our Ballroom Blitz section. Maybe they'll help. Maybe they'll get in the way. Maybe they won't do anything. We'll find out. Character link. We know they're a band. I'm going to search for them by band. And there they are. So that's how you do tag searches. Pretty easy. You can search by name and stuff too, if you know the name. Okay, so we're going to insert the carts. That's our band. And I'm looking forward to describing the songs that they make. All right, let's go down and save. And here you go. Here's what that looks like. All right, so I know when I'm looking briefly at my outline now, in this first section I'm getting ready to run the very beginning of the game, I know right at the beginning I'm going to have to get ready and roleplay Rim Berrybuck. I'm going to center click here. It will open up his page separately, and then I'll have a picture eventually for him. I'll have my little brief description of who he is to remind me, and then I'll have his stats if I need stats. We know he's a former cleric who lost his religion. He sometimes swims at night, so he's kind of gone mad. So I know where to go when I'm ready to roleplay him. I can pull him up quickly and then get rid of him when I'm finished. And then I know in the next subsection, after I get the players into town, one of the first things they're going to see in the market square are the criminals being branded by the clergy, so we can introduce that concept early. And I know that Mayor Petty Tom, we're going to pull him up. He's going to make a speech. I could have the speech written here if I wanted to. I could have it. I'll probably have it written in the adventure notes itself. But we can base that on one of his songs, perhaps, something along those lines. Okay, that's the general idea of how you're going to want to do your outlining. From here, writing the adventure is essentially taking all these little data points and filling in as much detail as you need to run it. My own personal style is I like to leave a little bit of room for improvisation. So my notes will look less detailed than some other adventure writers would. but they will be more detailed than, let's say, if you just did a single sheet of notebook paper with a general outline on it and maybe a quick, sketch of a map. All right. So another thing we're going to need to do, now that we have our outline, is we're going to have to start writing the actual details of things. And I think a good example of that will be, we need to write what the players see when they arrive at town. So we're going to have, down here, we're going to have, let's see, let's call it the adventure. And we're going to have part 1. Let's leave it all capitalized so it's easier to read. Take me down to Paradise City. And then I'm going to have the section where I want this section to be read aloud. So we're going to follow the format that we did last time. We're going to make it a little bit bigger than normal, and then we're going to write our description here. So here's what I want to be read aloud. We also want it to be bold, I think, which is you surround it by asterisks, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, put asterisks on either end and you get bold out of that. By the way, if you need references for your text style, you can bring up a little page for that if you need it. Okay, so this is what I want to be read by the GM as the players arrive. So let's go back and take a look at our map. I'll bring it up so you guys can see. All right, here's what we've got so far. We're going to add some details to this as we go, but this is in paint.net right now. I can show you on the site what it looks like for zooming in, but this will be easier so I can go back and forth. So we see as they're walking in through town, I want them to come in on this road, and they're going to see all the fields of different funny musical pun crops. If anybody comes up with any more than these, let me know and we'll add them in. So let's start our description. I'm going to write the description while you guys look at the map, so I think I can do that at the same time. All right, so this is when you put on your GM voice. So as you approach the tall, ancient walls of the distant town, you pass through fields of, and then we'll just list some of these: Holland oats, wheatus. Let me get back here. Holland oats, wheatus, red hot chili peppers, and several farmhouse gardens that smell distinctly. Don't forget to use your other senses, not just sight. That smell distinctly of parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. That's an old Simon and Garfunkel song, by the way. If you don't, it's a lyric from that. I'll try and explain as many musical references as I know, but I am stuck in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So if you have things from outside that region, let me know in the chat. Boldly Go Gaming, that's hilarious. Me and my friends are in a band called Today. We're a cover band. That's awesome. Can I put them in the game? That would be funny. Okay, so we got our description started. As you approach the tall ancient walls of the distant towns, you pass through the fields of Holland oats, wheats, red hot chili peppers, and several farmhouse gardens that smell distinctly of parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Okay, so right away from sentence one, we're setting up the idea of musical puns. We want to establish that early, and we want to continue with that as we enter into town. So think about what they're going to see and what we need them to know as they go into town. Because every sentence that you're giving them, you only have a handful. You got to give them the maximum amount of information possible. Okay, so let's talk about the gate. Looking at our map here, let me zoom out just a little bit and get it centered up. Okay. Looking at our gate, we have a couple of outbuildings according to our map that they're going to pass on their way to the gate. The kind of stuff you would have in a typical medieval / Renaissance town that will be just outside of the gate, other than poor folks who couldn't afford to live inside the walls. You might have a stable. Let's put in... Yeah, I think maybe a stable and a wheelwright would be good. So I'm just going to write some of these in here for now. Let's make this the stable. It's tiny writing. Let me crank this up a little bit. Stables. We'll make these... yeah, we'll just call them the Wagoneer. That works. That covers wagons and carts and things like that. And then down here, I think, let's see, what else would you have right outside? Probably nothing military. That would all be inside. Let's just leave that one blank for now. We'll come back to that and add it to our notes later on. Okay. Let me save the map here. Okay, so we know they're passing a stables and a Wagoneer, and they're coming in through the ancient walls through a gate. So let's describe that next. The gatehouse, let's call it stone gatehouse. The stone gatehouse looms above you. And the noise of stables and a busy Wagoneer's workshop. Fill the air. The guards atop, and so we need to indicate that the wall is fairly ancient. Guards atop the crumbling wall. Let's say stare off into the distance. Alert to some far-off threat, but unconcerned with the traffic passing beneath them. Okay, so what we've said in this sentence is that there's a Wagoneer and a stables just outside. This is for future games when they have enough money to buy mounts and wagons for travel. We've already established that there's one of these here. And the guards atop the crumbling wall indicates the wall is old, which we need to push because they're going to go investigate it later. They're staring off into the distance, alert to some far-off threat, but unconcerned with the traffic passing beneath them. So they don't care at all about people coming and going, but there is something out there that they're worried about. So we've established that for future games. So let's say game 2, game 3, we have whatever the outside threat is come to the city, and the players have to deal with that. We've got that set up from right away. Okay, so they're passing into the city. Let's go back to our map and see what we've got. All right. Passing into town, they're crossing through this little section right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yeah, there it is on your screen. So we're going to describe what the buildings look like, and then we're going to get them into the market square where they see their first event, where we establish here's one of the problems you're going to have to solve later in the game. Okay, so going into the market square is our next step. So we're right about here. So we want to describe as they come in, describe the buildings, mention what the square looks like, mention the mayor's mansion. It's the only building we have in our notes so far for that. So let's go to this next section here. Okay. All right. The narrow street is walled on either side by tall, modest buildings. And we need to indicate that this is not a rich town. So let's say, okay, tall, modest buildings. Above you, clothing hung out to dry, drips. And below you, stray cats dart between your legs as you walk. They seem untroubled by your intrusion. Okay, so we've established it's a little crowded here. They have stray cats, but the stray cats aren't mistreated. The clothing indicates that people are sort of practical here. Big one, likely an inn. Yes, I was thinking that. So aside from the mayor's mansion, as they come into Market Square, we have, maybe that big one that they're passing is an inn, because it would be right next to the gatehouse. It would have lots of customers. So we need a good name. Are the stray cats strutting? They should be. I think they're about to be. Let me change that. The stray cats strut between your legs as you walk. Good addition. Yeah. If anybody can think of a good name for the inn that they pass, or tavern or whatever you want it to be, we could throw that in too. So feel free. We can add that in. I'm going to move on to the market. Seem untroubled by your illusion. Okay. Next, we want to... Let's go down one. Untroubled by your intrusion. Okay. The street opens into a broad market square, which is oddly quiet considering the mass of villagers. Let's call them townsfolk. Mass of townsfolk gathered around the central well. Let's see. On a raised stone platform, standing before the backdrop of a run-down mansion, several well-dressed individuals preside over three villagers in rags and chains. The whole assembly is guarded by armed soldiers watching for trouble from the populace. Okay. Heartbreak Hotel is the only thing that comes to mind for an end. That could work. We could do that. Let's just let's hint at it. Let's see. Let's go back up in our description. The narrow street is walled on either side by tall, modest buildings. One of them bears a sign showing a broken heart in faded paint. Hotel California would work, but we're going to save that for our horror game, I think. I have some ideas about that one. So one of my friends ran an adventure path from Pathfinder, and in which you get trapped in a mansion, and I'm gonna replicate that and force him to play it at one point. But we're gonna use the Hotel California as our inspiration for that. But I think horror games are better saved for later on, for beyond level 1. Because although if you were doing a horror campaign, you want to establish early on that it's a horror campaign. But yeah, I think Hotel California is a good one to save for later when we do our horror adventures trapped in the mansion, since that's what the song's about. Get stuck in a supernatural hotel. Okay, the street opens into a broad market square, which is oddly quiet considering the massive townsfolk gathered at the central well. On a raised stone platform, standing before the backdrop of a rundown mansion, several well-dressed individuals preside over 3 villagers in rags and chains. The whole assembly is guarded by armed soldiers watching for trouble from the populace. Okay, that's a good start. Let's save that and see what we're looking at. Okay, let me pop the map off here because you guys have been staring at it for a while. Here's what we've got so far. So here's the adventure. Oh, I gotta get rid of my tag there. I put that in wrong, but it is bold. Okay. As you approach the tall, ancient walls of the distant town, you pass through fields of hollowed oats, wheatus, red hot chili peppers, and several farmhouse gardens that smell distinctly of parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. And then we go on with the rest of it that I described. All right, so this is the stuff that we want them to read when we're finished. I forgot my quote here at the end, too. Let's go fix our little mistakes. By the way, you can change your post date and time to be whatever you want it to be there. It's just sort of automatic. Okay. What did I do here? Let's get rid of that. And I forgot a quote at the end. Put it there. That's good. I like that. Take away this punching. Yeah, we'll do that as they're up there lamenting their situation. Okay, from here you would go on and continue to describe what's going on. I will add this little line here. So we'll have so we'll do prisoner 1 humming, and then here's what they say. They say take away this ball and chain. We'll have them humming and rocking back and forth on their knees. Okay, so obviously these prisoners have been abused. Oh yeah, I want all of my text to be read to be bold, so we'll highlight it, hit the bold thing in our little word processor menu up here, and get that. Okay, so that's something you could throw in if you have something that that an NPC would say during the course of a thing. Just sort of tuck it in there, and that'll be ready for you to roleplay if you need it at the time. You can, of course, opt to say different things as the GM. That's your prerogative. Okay. One of the other things I wanted to mention. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So you can arrange this how you want. You can add images and stuff like that later on to make it look pretty, to give yourself some visual references, which would be helpful. But basically, you're going to go down and follow along as the GM. You're going to read the stuff that it tells you to read. The stuff that's just for the GM to read is going to be not bolded for our purposes. And then you just sort of continue on. That's how it's going to work. All right, so that's the basic format of how our adventures are going to go. So let's look at some of the rest of the stuff. The overview we'll write at the end once we know what the whole adventure is about. We can sum it up easier at the end. we're going to need to come up with some names for our church and some of our bad guys who are the religious zealots who are doing this to people against their will. We're going to need to show what specifically happens when people get branded and how that's a consequence that the players probably don't want to have. So that's going to be a thing that we're going to want to add right after that. So let's do that now. So let's go down past where we were. Okay. So after this, we're just going to have a text section that's describing to the DM what happens next. So, the mayor of the town. Oh, let's do a character link. We'll put in character. Here he is. Okay, so I've got a slug over here. That's the where the link goes. So we're just gonna make this section say the mayor. So the mayor of the town steps up to give a speech condemning, let's see, he's somewhat powerless, so he can't condemn it outright. Let's say he quietly condemning the actions of the church's representatives and calling for mercy. And then the bad guys would respond by branding them. So the religious zealot then brands the 3 prisoners, which causes them, 3 prisoners with a black let's call it a mark that glows both black and white for a moment. They cry out more in anguish than in pain. Text coloration. Yeah, you can do it. That's cool. Let's do that. So use a percentile sign and little squiggly brackets. I forgot what those are called. So let's make something pop out with some color. How about if prisoner 1's text will be in a particular color? So let's start at his text section. Copy this straight out of the chat. So we got a percentile, squiggly bracket, color, colon, red, squiggly bracket, and then his stuff here. I think I'll put the bold on the other side just to see if that works. And then end it with percent. All right, let's preview and see if I got that right. Hey, there it is. Well, it's much easier to read. Okay, good tip. Okay, let's save what we got so far. All right. So I won't make you sit through me typing, acres and acres of text here, but this is to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing when we're writing our adventures. So we'll have the stuff that you read out loud. We'll have the stuff that you read as just the DM to give you an idea. We're going to try and keep it concise and short. The stuff that the NPCs read will now be in this in various colors of text, depending on which NPC it is. That'll make it easy to, if you're doing voices, for example, to switch back and forth between voices if you're running more than one NPC at the same time. And then we'll make sure and put in all of our links. So over here, I've got the mayor of the town. We have a link for him, so I'll center click that. And then that takes me to his page so I can review if I need to have his stats readily available. Okay, that was a pretty good start. So from here, let's plot out what we're going to do next from our outline. Basically, the characters arrive, they see the sights. After this event, they're going to be accosted probably by this Rim and Berrybuck character. After they see what's going on in town, he can give them some of the information they might need. He can direct them to a place to stay, that sort of thing. They can ask him questions, so we're going to give him lots of information to impart. He's going to be one of their first NPCs that they're going to have a chance to talk to. Unless, of course, they run up and try and stop this prisoner thing, in which case we're going to have an option for that too. So let's make a note of that now, because don't forget, one of your characters is one of your player archetypes is a power gamer, and they might be highly confident in their ability to to stop injustice as it's happening. So we're going to make an optional let's just call it an option for now. If the players try to interfere, we'll do the guards try to delay them long enough for the branding ceremony to occur. So at this point, when we have guards to put in, I will put a link to their stat block. We're going to devote a whole stream to making stat blocks and things like that. So we'll talk about that another time. But you would put your link here. If they interfere, then you bring up stat blocks. You start a sample combat, and this would be a good section if you're doing combat for the first time to help train, especially your Norbert the Noob player archetype who may have never done combat before and they need some confidence building in the rules. This would be a way to do that, is to have a little sample combat that's not going to be super lethal. The guards don't want to kill anybody, they just want to stop you from interfering. So they're doing a lot of non-lethal kind of threats, and then move along. Maybe there's some trouble with the law right out the gate, and then that's how you're going. Okay, so let's go back over our archetypes. What have we got so far, and whose stuff have we already touched on? Alice the actor. We've talked about how the masquerade ball and the section with the white wedding, it's going to have plenty of role playing to it. She's going to get to talk to the NPC, the REM bald madman. We get to talk to him right away. So we're giving her plenty of stuff to do. Norbert the Noob, we've talked about a little bit of training. Everything that we're doing is establishing, like, here's the kind of stuff that goes on here. And then we need to give him opportunities to do skill checks and things like that for the first time. So whatever our first stuff is, first combat, first skill check, is going to have to be an introductory level one of those. We've got to keep him in mind for that. Ezra the Explorer, we're giving him lots of information so far, so that they can immerse themselves in the world as they see fit, and then we're going to let them uncover a secret in part 2 when they discover something under the ancient wall. Polly the Power Gamer may have already leapt into action with our first potential combat of the campaign. If he tries to stop the injustice that's happening to these people, or possible injustice, they don't know anything about it yet. So he might already be jumping in. They fight the law and the law wins. That's how it works. They may shoot the sheriff, but not the deputy. Eddie the Escapist, he's here to have fun. We're immersing him in a world that is not his own. We're giving him lots of exotic things to help his escapist tendencies. Wanda the World Builder, we haven't given her anything to do yet, so we need to keep that in mind for next time. What are we going to do? Part of that, I think, is going to be them forming the band. I think that's where Wanda's going to start really getting into her own. We've used up let's see, we got a couple of our characters already ready to roll. We've got some ideas of what to do with them for next time, and that's a pretty good start for an adventure. This first adventure is going to take a little bit longer than some other ones because we have a lot of stuff that we need to establish right away, and then so we're training our players, so it's going to be a little bit longer one. We're also introducing the world for the first time, so we're giving as many anecdotes as we can about what's going on in the world, but it's going to serve as our model for the rest of our adventures for the rest of the time. All right, what are we going to talk about next time? We're going to do some more work on this first adventure, and I think next stream we're going to focus on what's under the wall. We need a reason for these folks to get down there. We need what they're going to find when they're down there. We also need to talk about timing of an adventure. If you want this adventure to take one night, let's say a 4-hour game session or something like that, you're going to have maybe an hour for each of these 4 things and a little bit of extra time for a conclusion. So this needs to be a small dungeon. So we're going to focus on what it takes to map a dungeon, what it takes to introduce the environment of the dungeon. If you've never run one before, the kinds of things you're going to want to describe, kinds of equipment you're going to want to take with you, that sort of stuff. So we'll be dungeon building next time, I think, as our main focus. And then after that, we'll work on another stream. We'll concentrate on some of our role-playing aspects and some of the characters, and getting into characters, maybe do some voice work if you're interested in how to do interesting voices with very little skill. It can be done. Not necessarily well, but it can be. We'll need to make eventually some monsters to fight, some bad guys to fight, some law to fight, NPC stat blocks, that sort of thing, and we'll talk about that in future streams. But that's pretty much where we're going to start wrapping it up here. Let's see, if you want to, let me put up the web address one more time. Here it is. livefreeordiebarred.obsidianportal.com if you want to check out the page. I will do a little bit of work in between streams for some cleanup and some finding pictures and things like that, so that you can see what's going on. And you can check it out and see how far we've gotten, and eventually start using stuff for your own games. If you have any suggestions for stuff to add, if you go to the front page of the campaign, there's a little comment section down here underneath the heart for becoming a fan. You can leave comments there. You can see the updates that I've made on the stream there. And then you can, of course, explore and look around. You can also message me by going to my profile. And then there, I'll show you the little, there's also, yep, here's some of my stuff. You can go down here and there'll be a little message thing down there, which will take you to the little message center. You can send me a message that way if you want to. This particular stream will be up on Twitch for a couple weeks, and you can watch it there if you missed the live broadcast. You can also go to YouTube in about a week, and it'll be up there. You can leave comments there also. We also have lots of other videos for Obsidian Portal on our YouTube channel. Let's see, what else would there be? We've got other streams coming up. We've got on, let's see, I think there's 2 more streams of T-Bug and the Dice Friends playing their Paranoia game, if you want to see something different than Dungeons & Dragons. He's on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which is GMT -4. You can check our social media, our Facebook and our Twitter, for other streamers that are we're going to be trying to promote them and get community support to see some other people doing Let's Play videos of their live home games. And I'll be back next week at Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, GMT -4, for more Live Free or Die Barred dungeon building. Get ready, come with your musical puns, and let me know some more things to add in there, and I'll take care of it. But that's about it for now. Thanks very much for joining us and participating in chat, and I will see you guys next time. Later.